Chase Thomas podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas podcast from still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee, Everything School HQ. Joining me, old friend Jimmy Hyams of the Sports Source 99.1, the Sports Animal. You've known him for, I'm not going to say the years here, Jimmy Hyams, but Jimmy Hyams has been a staple here in Knoxville and covering the Tennessee Volunteers, where a season Jimmy has come and gone once again. It never ceases to amaze me how fast this thing flies by.
You're right. We're into December. It does seem to fly by, and I don't know if it's because I'm getting older, but it goes in a flash. And I love college football. I love the college football season. I enjoy it thoroughly, and it's been a lot of fun this year. But it's wilder than it's ever been with all of what's going on: the coaching moves, the transfer portal, the calendar that they have, college football playoff, second year of the 12-team playoff. There's just so much going on right now with college football. I don't think it's sustainable, but we'll see.
We'll see. A lot of money in the sport, but it's just the money gets crazier and crazier every year. We just keep wondering, when is too much? And, in your neck of the woods at LSU, where, hey, we're not going to do these contracts anymore, these coaching contracts. And that did not end up happening in Baton Rouge with Lane Kiffin.
Not at all. I was talking to some friends of mine, and I had shared with them that, and this was early in the week, that, well, if Lane Kiffin stayed at Ole Miss, he probably should have told them by now. Mm-hmm. If he's going to Florida, Florida already knows. And LSU is not going to give him a humongous buyout because they just made this mistake with Brian Kelly. So I don't know what he's going to do. And then when I heard he was going to talk to Nick Saban, who thought the LSU job was as good as any in the country when he took it, that made me tip the scales a little bit more to thinking he would go to LSU, but I wasn't sure they would go with the buyout. So I called a buddy of mine down there that follows LSU, and he says, they've told the governor to shut up. So they're giving this humongous buyout, and they're doing this ridiculous thing that if Ole Miss wins the national championship, LSU is going to give them another $1 million. Why do they agree to that nonsense? That's nuts. But anyway, he's got an incredible deal. He said he didn't know the contract. I'm calling bull on that. He knew the parameters. Okay, he wasn't going to go for $5 million a year. So don't. So he knew, he had a really good idea. Maybe he didn't know the exact numbers, but I do think he was very interested in knowing how much LSU is going to put in the NIL kitty. And supposedly they've committed $25 to $30 million, whereas LSU's football budget last year was somewhere between 15 and 18 million.
Yeah, and you hear those numbers and you're like, well, that was for last year. It's like, well, what is that? And what's the going rate? Like, Ohio State's roster, and it was reportedly the most expensive roster, and they win the national title. But you still just don't know because these are not public. It's not like the NFL where we just know what teams are spending. We know everything about the cap. We know everything about salaries. Like, we just don't know what is a great number for an NIL or for your team total for 2026, because those are numbers for last year. We don't know how crazy the numbers are going to be for next year.
Well, when Ohio State won it, it was said to be at $20 million, but that was only NIL money.
Yeah.
Now you got the $20.5 million that a school can dish out, and it's on a percentage basis. So Tennessee has already said that they're doing 75% football, 15% men's basketball, 5% women's hoops, and then everybody else gets another 5%. So you can kind of figure out about where Tennessee is, but that doesn't count NIL money. Mm-hmm. So at Texas Tech, it is said that with the NIL money and this billionaire that's forked over a lot of money, they got $55 million in their kitty to work with. How much goes to football? I don't know. But you're hiring coaches, you're paying them an exorbitant amount, you're having all these huge buyouts, and then you're turning around and paying your players an incredible amount of money like we've never seen before. I don't know how it's sustainable. I also know that if they try to fight it, it's antitrust. Congress needs to get involved. They've been slow to do so. So I don't know where this is going to go, but the money right now, it's monopoly money.
Yeah, it's just wild to see I mean, and we'll talk Tennessee here in a second, but I mean, the BYU part of it with Kalani Sitake, it's like, is he going to take the Penn State job? And you're just seeing like billionaires in the Salt Lake area tweeting about Sitake's future. And it's just kind of wild to just see like all the different billionaires get involved, or all the mega donors, where you're seeing and you're like, oh, okay, it's just a different world, and it's like all these different programs fighting to keep their guys, and they just don't want to be left behind. They don't want to lose their guys, and they just get antsy. So it's like Eli Drinkwitz, you get an extension. Clark Lee, you get an extension. All these guys are getting extensions because teams just don't want to get poached. And we'll see what happens with Sitake at BYU. But yeah, it's interesting that these schools just can't help themselves, Jimmy. They can't get out of their own way.
One thing I don't like about this, and this has to be the case, but well, there are two things. One, there's no way these players that transfer to 4 different schools are academically eligible. Those schools have just said, to hell with academics. We don't care as long as we can win in football. Here's the other thing I don't like. That some of these donors say, okay, this is how much I'm giving to the school. So am I going to give it all to the athletic department, or am I going to give it to the academic side? I think now that the academic side is getting hurt by donors funneling their money into the athletic department. So I'm not crazy about that. I think, look, it's supposed to be college sports. You're supposed to go to class. There's supposed to be academics involved. And it seems like we've just forgotten about that. And again, there's no way all these players are eligible. I've heard of one case in the last few years, since all this transfer portal stuff started, of one player being academically ineligible. That's a bunch of bull. There's no way all these credits transfer. I transferred, and I couldn't get all my credits to transfer. So how's that happening with all these athletes? I think it's become a farce academically.
Well, we could talk all things problems with college football for, I'm going to say the entirety of the evening, Jimmy. But a lot of folks are wondering, what does Jimmy Hyams think of the Tennessee football season now that the regular season has come to a close? Would you coin this season as a successful season for Josh Heupel in Tennessee?
No.
Okay.
No. I would say barely acceptable. But here's the deal, and everybody's got a different perspective. My prediction before the year was 8-4. That's what I thought they would be. You had a concern at quarterback. Oddly enough, I thought the offense would be a little bit better, because I thought the players on offense would not let Joey Aguilar fail. They were upset about this Nico situation, so they weren't going to let him fail. He ended up being better than I thought. I thought the defense would be a little bit worse, but not a lot worse. I mean, this almost historically bad defense at Tennessee. Offensively, they still, in going into the Vanderbilt game, they led the league in scoring and in total yards. That may not be true now after the Vanderbilt game, but the offense was better than I thought. But here's where, and I'm not as bothered by this 8-4 team because that's what I projected, but here's where the fans get upset. The fans live in their hopes and dreams, right? So they're optimistic, they're hopeful, and you should have beat Georgia if you make a 42-yard field goal, okay? So you're seeing the potential of how good they can be. And you think, hey, this is a college football playoff team. And then you're playing Alabama toe-to-toe. You throw a pick six at the end of the half, lose that game. You're up on Oklahoma 7-0. You're driving. You're going to take a 14-0 lead against a team that doesn't have very good offense. 71-yard fumble recovery, turn the other way. So you built up your hopes about what this team could do, and they let you down. And not only that, nobody in Knoxville cares that you beat Florida. They care that you got your butt beat by Vanderbilt. So the way this thing ended is very disappointing. You heard Josh Heupel say the game was disappointing. For a lot of fans, the season was disappointing, very disappointing. And again, I'm not surprised by the final record, but I know that fans look at that and say they blew an opportunity to have a 9 or 10 win season.
The margins are so thin in this league now. And like you said, you're a field goal away from beating Georgia. Like, how do fans feel if you beat Georgia and you still get just throttled by Vanderbilt that final week? Do they give you more of a pass for getting throttled at the end of the year to Vanderbilt at home? I don't know. We'll never know the answer to that. But I think the defense just being as bad as it was the majority of the year, and look, you get some grace with Jermod McCoy not being available the whole year, Ricky Gibson, like losing him after 19 snaps is just crazy bad luck to lose your two top corners basically before the season even gets started. But it's just the defense had so many holes. Like we knew Andre Turrentine was a weakness at one of the safety spots. Yes, you lost Jacoby Thomas, but like you didn't really push to upgrade at the safety spot going into this year. And that was like one of those, you didn't add a veteran in the linebacker room. You really bet on Arion Carter and some of those guys to make the leap. The linebackers really struggled. They really struggled against Vanderbilt. And I'm high on a lot of those guys in the future. Like I really like Edwin Spillman. I really like Jaden Perlotti, and I'm still not selling my Harmon stock. I think he's a really good player too, but they're not there yet, and they weren't ready. And like the run fits and everything else, you saw Vanderbilt just carve them up. And the defensive line, like you didn't get enough out of Jackson Moy. You didn't get enough out of Bryson Eason.
Yeah.
Dominic Bailey being your best all-around defensive lineman this year meant that your defensive line was not an A+, A- defensive line. Dominic Bailey individually, great year for him. Like Dom's an awesome leader and everything else, but he can't be your best player on an elite defensive line. Like he's somewhat like he was miscast, in that way. And I think you were hoping that Jordan Ross or Caleb Herring or Tyree West or Tyree Weathersby, some of those guys broke out, and it just never really happened for a lot of guys. So there's so much to be said about the defense, and I don't think it was a successful season at all, but I do give Heupel credit on the offensive side, Jimmy. I wonder if you go the same. Look, we all had wonders about, like, are you actually going to make real change because of what we've seen in the passing game the last 2 years? Like that you have to evolve and adjust because 2022 is getting further and further in the rearview mirror, and he adjusted, right? Like I think he deserves credit for the passing game and the vertical passing game looking completely different, having a Blitnikoff watch list guy and Chris Brazzell. He might be a first round pick because of the changes you made. Braylon Staley was awesome in the slot. Like I think he does deserve credit for adjusting the wide splits and everything else to adapt so that his offense had more explosion for the first time since 2022. But Aiden Poore is just not good enough going into year 5. Losing 3 home games it's hard to say it's a successful season when you lose 3 times at home in your building, but I don't know. I'm still very mixed on where I think Tennessee is going into this offseason.
Well, let me answer the question you started your dialogue with, and that is this. If Tennessee had beaten Georgia and a playoff berth was on the line and you lost to Vanderbilt?
True. Yeah, that's true.
So that would have been a huge, huge disappointment. Offensively, they did a really nice job. Look, you got a guy, he was a UCLA castoff, Joey Aguilar. So you bring him in here. He arrives in May. He throws for, 3,400 yards. It's one of the top 5 yardage seasons in Tennessee history. He led the league in passing yards and touchdown passes for much of the year. For the first time ever, you had 3 wide receivers that had over 700 yards. You had a running back who was a former walk-on that was 2 first downs from a 1,000-yard regular season. He should get 1,000 counting the bowl game. So offensively, you did much, much better than I anticipated. But the defense was just awful. And why they were that bad, I think you're right about Dominic Bailey. That's a good point. Joshua Josephs needed to be a stud up there, and he wasn't. Bryson Eason needed to have a big year. He didn't. Your linebacker – now, one guy you didn't mention that they thought was going to be really good was Boo Carter.
Yeah.
That was just an absolute waste, what happened with his situation. He's a very talented player, couldn't stay out of trouble, couldn't get committed, and didn't play very well. So and the linebackers, as much as I like them, I don't think they're very good in pass coverage. I saw them get beat time after time by running backs or whatever out of the backfield, tight ends. They were not very good in pass coverage. So they got to improve that. Jacoby Thomas ended up being a bigger loss than I thought. But when you do lose him, as you point out, you got to go in the portal and find somebody to fix that. Now, it was huge that you didn't have Ricky Gibson and you didn't have Jermod McCoy. If you've got outstanding cornerbacks, that allows you defensively to do more things. And so they got limited a little bit by that, even though I thought Hood and Redmond ended up playing pretty well at times. Redmond got picked on a lot early, in particular, like the Georgia game.
Right.
So defensively, though, man, I am really – I didn't think they'd be as good because you basically – now, if you asked me this in August, because you lost a first-round draft pick, a pass rusher. You lost a second-round draft pick on the defensive line and Lamar Norman Lott, and you lost a potential first-round pick in McCoy.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing in August those three out of the equations, this defense is not going to be as good, and it's not as deep. Omari Thomas was a pretty good player. You lost him. Jacoby Thomas is a nice player. You lost him. So there were enough players that were not coming back to where this defense will take a step back, but not a giant leap. So Chase, that caught me off guard. I thought the defense wouldn't be as good, but I didn't know it would be a disaster.
Jimmy, Josh Heupel gives you one thing. It's like the Jimmy Hyams special, where you can make one change to Tennessee football this offseason. He's like, I'll do whatever. I'll give you one, Jimmy. What's your one that you're taking Josh Heupel on?
The one change that needs to be made?
Yeah, you only get one. Like, there's all kinds of changes that fans want to see this offseason. It could be a coordinator, coach change, a position to target in the portal. Like, what's one thing that you're like, you get one. You're like, that's the most important one. I would ask Heupel to make this adjustment.
I don't think there is one. But if I could go collectively, I would say you have got to hit the portal hard. It's not just getting one defensive player. You probably need 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And offensively, you could probably have a little help on the offensive line. But if I could go with a collective look at it, it would be the transfer portal. Offensively, I think you're going to be good again if you get Aguilar back. Now, if you ask me this question in a couple of weeks and we find out Aguilar's not coming back, then the number one priority is to go get a quarterback. Because Tennessee's not good enough at quarterback, in my opinion. I don't see Faison Brandon coming in right away and being a star. I don't see McIntyre being ready. I don't think Merklinger's good enough. So if you don't get Aguilar back, then the number one priority to me would be to go get a quarterback.
I feel antsy about this, but the Aguilar, I like his leadership. I like his deep ball. The shaky offensive line down the stretch did not help, I think, for Aguilar. But I think where you had those weeks where he had 2 interceptions in the first half, 2 interceptions in the first half, he'd have these quarters where it's like, oh, quick 3 and out. He would have they'd just have a bad quarter. And you're like, is that Aguilar? Is that just the offense? Like, he was very hot and cold in some ways where I think a lot of people may have overlooked, because I think he kind of regressed down the stretch this season. I think, obviously he was brilliant in the Georgia game, but I didn't love what we saw down the stretch from Aguilar. And at 24 years old, I think he is a huge win. He's a great story. Like I said, great kid, but I don't like my quarterbacks not to be he is limited mobility wise. It was one of the most frustrating parts about the Joe Milton era, was that Joe was built like Cam Newton and refused to run. When he finally put his head down again in the Alabama game in Tuscaloosa, you're like, this is what we've been asking for all year. Like, nobody wants to hit you, Joe. Like, if you start running, nobody wants to tackle Joe Milton. And you saw them really work the read option stuff in that game, and it worked. And Tennessee really poured it on Bama in the first half. But I just think you need mobility in Heupel's scheme. And I don't think Joey is a natural runner. I don't think he's I would say willing runner, but he's not comfortable. He'll sit in the pocket too long because he trusts his arm. He trusts his eyes. He's going to force the ball. And there is some real value to that. But I think you have to do your due diligence. And I think you have to explore some other power 4 quarterbacks who might enter the portal. Like, this next month needs to be, who else could we get? Could we upgrade over Joey? Like, we appreciate what you did here for a year, but he was not your first choice in May. And I think there's a reason he was not your first choice, because I don't think the scheme was a perfect marriage between the two, but I do think Joey's a good player. I think he had a good year for you, but I think Tennessee should look to kind of like that whole recruit over somebody. I think you kind of have to portal over Joey if you can in 2026. Is that fair?
That's it. Well, that's the tricky thing, because if Aguilar says he wants to come back, are you going to tell him no?
Do I have someone that I feel like is a 95% sure thing?
Well, how are you going to know that?
Well,
okay. So if he says he wants to come back, I'm taking him. I'll give you an example of my position on this, because I had a discussion with a friend of mine who's a big Minnesota Vikings fan. and he said, let Sam Darnold go. He's got limitations, and let's go with J.J. McCarthy. How'd that work out? Okay, so if you don't know that you can get Lenora Sellers, or you don't know you can get Damon Williams from Washington, or Brendan Sorsby from Cincinnati, if you don't know you can get them, you better take Joey Aguilar. But
what about Josh Heupel, though?
When are you going to know that you can get them?
That's
and then
true.
Here's the other thing, too. How much are you going to have to pay? What if Sellers wants $4 million, which they were not willing to give Nico? All right.
Yeah.
Then look how much money is invested in your quarterback room. You got a freshman coming in. You're paying him good money. You got McIntyre. I don't know what he's making. But if you put all that money in your quarterback room, then that means you can't help your defense or your offensive line or perhaps some other position if you've got that much money invested in the quarterback room. I think it's a tough decision. Now, somebody asked me, well, would you pay Aguilar $3.8 million? No, I wouldn't pay him that much because I can't deplete the rest of my roster by overpaying in my quarterback room.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying. If I can get one of those quarterbacks, I would take them. But when do you know? How do you know? So that's the tough thing about that. But I got to say, if Aguilar told me tomorrow, I want to come back, I would take him because I don't have a guarantee I'm going to get anybody better.
Yeah, it's a spot that's why, it's the whole thing. It's why you make a lot of money, Josh. Like, that's why you're making $220,000 a week is for decisions like that, because I don't envy that spot that he's going to be in. And you got to make those decisions very quick because the portal will be opening here in a month and you need to have your ducks in a row. You need to, and you might not have clarity on Joey until like the day before. Like, you don't know when that ruling is going to drop. That could be after, like, you have no idea.
That's right. So you don't know when that's going to come down. And then let's say you get a quarterback in the portal and of course, we're not tampering, are we?
No.
Of course not.
No.
Okay. So if you know in the portal, you got a guy that you think is more mobile and is a better fit and will be more productive than Joey, then you got to tell him bye. But when do you know that? How do you know that? That's the tricky part of all this. And I'll go back to the Vikings example. Let's don't take Sam Darnold. Let's go with J.J. McCarthy. Darnold was proven you could win 14 games with him. How many did you win with McCarthy? So that you get into some of that, which is kind of interesting to see how this is going to play out. I would say I like Aguilar more than you do. I would say he threw 10 interceptions this year.
10, yes.
Right? Okay. 7 were his fault.
Yeah.
He threw 2 that Kitzelman dropped. That was Kitzelman's fault. He threw 1 that got batted at the line of scrimmage. I can't blame him for that. Now, I think Diego Pavia is a great quarterback, and I'm going to put him on my Heisman ballot. You know how many interceptions he threw?
Ooh, he threw 2 on Saturday. How many did he have?
There was 2 different.
Okay.
In Aguilar and Pavia. Now, I think Pavia is a great player. Great player.
He's my Heisman. I think he's the most important player to his team in that group. I think he's the everything.
He's definitely going to be on my ballot. I'll tell you a guy that I'm contemplating. I know this is off topic. I love this guy, and I think he's the second most MVP in MVP of the SEC, and that's Trinidad Chambliss. Look what he did at Ole Miss, and I don't care that he missed the first 2 or 3 games, whatever it was. There's no way they're 11-1. He is the second most important player to his team in the SEC to Pavia, in my opinion.
He's won a lot of football games the last 2 years. Won a title at Ferris State last year, and now 11-1 this year. That man just wins.
Yep.
Jimmy Hyams, what can the good folks check out from you all over the internet this week and over the next couple weeks here?
I'm going to write a couple more articles on. We're posting them right now on a Medium website. You can find them on my Twitter account. We still have 63 or 4,000 people who follow us on Twitter. You can find us on our Twitter account. I'm going to do another podcast with Heath Schuler. I may do 2. I'm not sure. We're going to probably do a season wrap up, and then once Tennessee finds out their bowl destination, might do another one. But that's it. You'll find me on the Sports Source, and that's Sundays at 11 a.m. So we do that. So that's what I'm doing. I don't. Some people say, "Oh, you're working just as much as you didn't." No, it's not even close for the hours I put in. It's not even close. But every now and then I'll pop up, just so I don't become totally irrelevant, just partially irrelevant.
Well, you're always welcome anytime on this very program, Jimmy Hyams.
Appreciate it. All right.
Jimmy, happy holidays, my friend, and we'll have to check back in again very soon.
All right, Chase, thank you. Happy holidays to you as well.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.